Import-export, just one of the wrong products. Because it went from pills to then meeting somebody that had been to Morocco a couple of times. Back in Bristol, it was worth $7.5 a kilo. This is where things f***ing move up a gear. What, f*** it? Just going to wrap it in a towel in my suitcase. The plane's landed, chief customs officer is walking towards me. I'm f***ing done here, aren't I?
Did Russ introduce you to his brother Pat Tate?
Yeah, about 3-4 weeks before.
Elliot, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much. I'm excited about this, Dodge. I really am.
It's been a while, isn't it?
I know. We were talking about this, what, two odd years ago?
Yeah. Let's roll all the way back. Where did you grow up, and how did you end up getting banged up in France and in Spain?
Okay, so where do you want me to start from?
Where you grew up?
Where I grew up. I grew up in the Midlands. Moved up to the Midlands about 2 years old, so I don't remember obviously moving up there. The family business was up in the Midlands, so my grandfather had set it up there. So moved up to the Midlands and lived in Lichfield Cathedral, if you've ever heard of that, probably not. And started school in a private school, believe it or not. So they sort of settled in the Midlands because the business was there for distribution purposes, no matter what the business was. And so I started school in a private school. It was a cathedral school. I was a choir boy. I used to have like proper like ruffles. Can you imagine?
No, I'm just picturing right now, yeah.
That's a weird picture. So private school. And then my father pulled me out of private school to buy a boat. Shows you where our priorities are, right? Down here in Poole, actually. And started Cobb's Quay.
Yeah, I know Cobb's.
Yeah, so that's what we used to come boating here sort of most weekends when I was a kid. But went into a normal school. Got bullied to fuck, to be honest, because I was... Terry, I don't call him my father, right? I'll talk about that later on. Terry, he's controlling, bullying, sort of, quite abusive behind the scenes. Nice as pie at the front, but, like that. And but from London, so southern accent. My mum's Dutch, so quite a neutral accent. So I got bullied for saying bath rather than bath.
Right, okay.
And bus rather than bus. So, of course, I became the fucking class clown, didn't I? That was, I suppose, which a lot of people do, right? You see a lot of people that, whatever they got through in life, if they've been different at school and been bullied, they tend to become the comedian and sort of entertainer. And so that, in essence, was how school started. And I didn't really have loads of friends, but there were a few. And school was all right. Like, I was smart, but I was always at the front for fucking about, or sat or pushed to the back. They never, in those days, looked at why you were sort of playing up or anything like that. And of course, I used to get beaten quite regularly by my father, belts and slippers and usual shit.
What, he used to beat you with belts?
Yeah, yeah, like literally.
What year were we talking in the 80s?
I mean, well, I'm 49 now, so you would have been talking I was born in 74, so as long as I can remember. To be fair. To the point where I didn't want to do sport and stuff in sort of junior school or maybe probably first few years of secondary school. So probably 11, 12, 13 years old. In fact, I remember being in the changing room of secondary school and getting changed to do football, which I couldn't stand, to be honest. I'm not football. And a like green, why made me think about this? But black and green and blue sort of marks down because he had these Pirelli fucking slippers with massive hard sole. I mean, that's pretty evil. I can't imagine doing that to my son. Do you know? It's pretty. But anyway, I didn't expect to talk about that. So yeah. Although
why was he like that towards you?
He had a pretty shitty upbringing.
Okay.
I mean, my grandfather was a self-made millionaire, proper entrepreneur. In fact, I'm very similar to him. And my grandfather wasn't around. He was always working. He was running his business. He was doing business, and it split up with Terry's mother. And so Terry had gone into sort of foster care because my nan had become ill, basically, mentally ill. In fact, I remember going to one of these Victorian mental homes that they all closed down in their apartments, going into one of those where people are rocking backwards and forwards in white coats and stuff, like proper fucking weird. So I now, of course, as I'm older, I understand why Terry did a lot of those things. He was probably abused and things as a kid. And it was probably just normal to him.
Fair play for you accepting that.
I've had to over the last probably 5 years. I would say I've probably worked to myself more.
Yeah.
So I do. See
as you were growing up, then was there a time you're saying I need to get out of the household here?
Oh, mate. I mean, it is 18.
Yeah.
I'd gone into sixth form, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to go to college, actually. I'd done enough of school, really. I was already going clubbing and stuff. So I was going out with people who were a couple of years older than me, into Derby, going clubbing and stuff, nightlife. So I didn't want to be going to sixth form. So it was still institutionalized, It was like everybody was still like school kids. And I was sort of grown up a little bit. I had like 3 jobs at the time as well. Working in woodcraft, working in a butcher's, doing some other stuff and, earning money because, although it was a reasonably privileged upbringing, I had less money than everybody else. That was probably a control thing from my father, to be fair. And so, 16, 17 years old, going to sixth form. 3 months in, I remember standing up in maths. How I got to do A-level maths, I have no idea, because I'm shit with numbers. We'll talk about this in a bit. I've got dyscalculia as well as ADHD, right? Which means it's like dyslexia. I'm completely number blind. And I remember standing up, A-level maths about a month in, if that, saying, does everybody else understand what's being said in there? Of course they did. And I felt fucking stupid. I walked out, and that was pretty well where I started leaving sixth form. So I'd actually left school before my parents found out for about 3 months. I was getting on my motorbike every day, going to fucking school, but they were thinking I was going to school. And I wasn't actually going to school. I was actually picking my mate up and then going getting pissed all day. And of course, when Terry found out that I'd left school and I'd been telling him that I was going to school, I remember him putting me up against the side of the Shogun on the fucking drive. And that was about where I needed to get out of there, really. And I think I left home at like 17, 18, started working in bars and stuff in Lichfield. I needed to get out of it, because I could have gone into the family business. That would have been the easy route. But I just didn't want to do that then. I wanted to go and experience life a little bit. So, it was 17, 18, and I just literally packed up my car and just drove off the drive, and that was it. I sort of literally turned my back on my father because I couldn't deal with it anymore. I had to change the way things were. What were your movements after that then? I started working in a bar because I had to do something, and I just walked into a bar one day and asked him if they had a job, and he liked me and started working in there. I ended up becoming the assistant manager of that. And then he recommended me to a guy who's opening a bar up near Birmingham in a place called Walsall, and said he would make a great manager, and he was open this new cafe bar. And he said, Elliot, make a great manager. I know him, put him in there, and he'll get the place going. And I was only 18 years old, so why they thought I had this flair, but I'm very sociable, outgoing. I picked up the bar sort of business pretty quickly. And so started running this brand new bar for this guy in Walsall. And then I was going out with this, I was fucking all the staff as well. I was a nightmare. Like Dodge, I was a proper nightmare. And I got engaged. Banging the payroll. Like in the first bar, I was a nightmare. And I got engaged to one of the girls as well, who we'll talk about in a second, we moved to Spain with, probably a few months later. But I was a nightmare. Like I was a real nightmare. And I don't know why, because I had like little glasses. I was a bit geeky, really, but I sort of probably fancied myself with it wearing these silk shirts, like Chiro. Do you remember the Chiro Terrio shirts? I was wearing Chiro, like with these little gold glasses, and I still pulled. How did that even happen? But in
good chat, mate. Good chat.
Maybe. And then Tracy, who I'd got engaged to, I was 18 and I got engaged to. She'd gone to work in south of Spain, like the year beforehand, before I'd met her. And she was sort of going to talk about going out for the summer again to go and work in Spain. And I was like, I fancy a bit of that. Like we could just go down there and work in bars. That sounds like fun. And so that was how the transition went from working in bars, meeting her, and then going, right, we're just going to put some money together and fuck off to Spain, to the Costa del Crime. Or the Costa del Sol, Fuengirola. So we're talking, was it Fuengirola, was it? Yeah, Fuengirola. We're talking like mid-90s here. So I'm 94. I'm 90. 94 was a bore. No, that was when I got done. 93, I was set free. 93. What was that like for you, like then, going out to Marbella? Because back then in the 90s, it was the place to be. Yeah. We were out there and kind of grew up there as a kid. Yeah, I remember you saying. Yeah, that was the place to be. Estepona, Marbella, Port Banús. Well, Fuengirola wasn't quite as posh. No, Fuengirola wasn't. I do remember the water slides there, though. Yeah, water park. well, so we went to Fuengirola initially. And, London pub, the Underground club as well. So, we went there and had no work or anything. So we had to find work. And of course, there's loads of bars back then. Like everybody opened bars in the summer, didn't they? Yeah. And a lot of dodgy money down there as well. So, opening bars is a great way of cleaning money, probably, wasn't it? So, we started working in a bar, and there was a day when we were living Las Palmeras, which was the hotel overlooking the marina. I don't know whether that place is still there now, but a big brown building it was at the time, chocolate brown place. And we had like a what were those, like one bedroom in the what's it called? You have a bedroom in the lounge and everything. Studio, like a little studio apartment, which can't have been very expensive. I tend to think now it's like a couple $100, but it can't have even been that much. Probably
we think about it, it's 93. This is 30 years ago.
So if I'm thinking money wise, it was like a couple $100. It's got to have been like maybe £60 maybe for a month. And we were struggling to come up with the money for that end of that month. We started working in a bar, and this guy used to disappear every few days, close the bar, disappear every week or so, close the bar for a couple of days, come back, reopen the bar. I didn't know what he was doing at the time, so I just met him. So we were working in there together, both Tracy and I, and we were proper skint because we hadn't been down there very long. We only went down there with like a couple £100. And although Terry and I had fallen out, I had got him back in contact with him between that time. And when I went to Spain, he did say, "Look, when you're there, if you need anything, I'll wire you some money just to tide you by." So it's one day, and I remember where I was. I literally remember the phone where I stood in Fuengirola. And I said, so I called him up and I said, "Listen, we're just struggling a little bit. Could you just transfer some money down?" Which I would have had to go into the bank and all sorts in those days, right? It wasn't a simple process. Literally just to cover the rent for a bit, and then I'll send it back because we started working in the bar. And again, the whole control, God knows what day he'd had, but it hadn't been a good day. And he just fucking flew into one. "I'm not sending you any money." And he was like proper went into one. And I just remember putting the phone down and going, fuck, right, I've got to do something here. I've got to do something because otherwise we're going to be out in our ear. And I think we may have been, the fact that I feel, recalling now, the fact that I feel like we were in trouble, we were maybe already behind on paying it. Maybe we had to pay weekly, I'm not sure, I can't remember, it doesn't matter. So went back to the bar and spoke to Dave. The guy's name was Dave, big guy, and said, "Listen, could you just forward us a little bit of money for the rent?" He said, "Yeah, no problem at all, I'll do that." And I didn't want to ask him. And then we were talking about it, and I think I then probably offloaded a little bit to him about our situation. And so we closed the bar that night. I'm fucking proper recalling stuff here. Closed the bar that night. And we went upstairs, and I'd not really touched drugs or anything at that stage, right? I'd done a little bit of acid in the UK, but nothing major. Didn't smoke weed, didn't really like it. I was in Spain for a few weeks, and I've done fucking side smoking weed, and we've done a little bit of Charlie, and we've tried everything. We're down on the south coast of Spain, right? It's all there. And David sort of said, "Listen, do you fancy strapping up a couple of kilos?" He said, "I do it regularly, that's why I close the bar. Like 2.5 kilos of cannabis resin." They were like, 9 bars, sort of like that big, right? Yeah. So a couple of kilos is down your side, baggy jumpers. I remember a baggy jumper down there, around there, strap it up with sort of that sort of materially sort of tape so it doesn't crinkle or whatever. You can smell it coming through your top sometimes. And then he said, "I'll pay you for that." And he was reasonably well paid. So, I did that, flew back with him. I did that a couple of times till I got some money. And then,
so where were you flying from then?
We flew from Malaga then.
Yeah, to where?
We were going to Manchester because
you were taking the gear from Malaga, from Morocco, no doubt.
No. This is from Spain. Yeah. So they were just he was obviously buying the stuff from. So Morocco. We were just strapping up. No, from Spain.
From Spain. Okay.
This is from Spain at this stage. Flying from Malaga, and then flying back to Manchester, and he was Birkenhead area, so he was knocking it out there for like 2,700 a key, somewhere 2,700 a key, somewhere ish, which I found out sort of later on. So did a couple of those, and he paid me, and then I put the money, and then started buying at the same time, and then started flying back with my girlfriend.
So you were taking gear back from Spain back to the UK
initially,
strapping
it up. Me and that girlfriend. So then Dave was like, he was doing his own thing, and I got some money together. So then Tracy and I were doing it. My girlfriend and I, we were flying back. Mate, we were flying back. When we got to Spain in February, we were flying back once a week or so, every 10 days. Malaga, or Alicante or Gibraltar.
Yeah.
So we were going through, so we wouldn't go to the same airports all the time. And I remember Tracy walking through one time and she still had a backpack on. This is in Gibraltar Airport. Still had a like a little backpack on, and the fucking alarm's gone off, isn't it? I'm shat myself. I've already walked through. I've shat myself, and thankfully they just asked her to take it off and put it on the conveyor belts. So that was pretty hairy.
Did you know what the consequences were for carrying, like, what are you saying, call it $2,500 a key at that time, and you were taking, what, 2 or 3 keys?
Yeah, a couple of keys.
Do you know what the consequences were bringing it from Spain to England at the time?
I was probably misconception, mate. I have to be honest with you. I didn't think that you'd probably get as much time as I then realised later on. Yeah. I thought, it's a bit of gear, it's a bit of pot, isn't it? You know. So I thought maybe you might get a month or two, and I think maybe that had been said. Maybe. So I felt bulletproof, really. And I got fucking bollocks in those days, really, to do that. But you've done it a couple of times and you think, this is a piece of piss. I remember going on the flight one time and I was fucking on speed and I was so hot I could smell the fucking stuff coming through my top. I sat on the plane thinking, does anybody else smell this? Anyway, so we'd done that. And
how much were you personally earning carrying for someone else?
When I was doing it when I was doing it initially,
roughly, if you're carrying $7,500 worth of gear on you,
probably 500 quid.
Wow.
Probably 500 quid, and for that, which when you've got no money, 500 quid is actually back then not a bad amount of money. Yeah. And it for 3-4 days work. That's not too bad. Flights are paid for and everything as well, so it's not like I had any cost to come out of that. And then when we're doing it ourselves, we're earning a little bit of money, and it's working. So we were doing that, and we got a slightly nicer place to live in. And this is within the space of 2 or 3 months. And of course, I've got to know people down in Fuengirola that time, and you're running a bar, and you get to know everybody. And there's this guy called Scottish Jerry comes in one day, and he's got and he was proper stressed out. He's a bit of a bell end, actually, this guy. But he was probably stressed. Somebody had let him down, and he was having to take a couple of cars. Him and a mate of his were due to drive a couple of ringers, so stolen cars that were being replated, taking them from Algeciras to Ceuta. Ceuta is Moroccan mainland, but Spanish territory, right? Yeah. And there's a ferry that used to go between, I don't think it might still do, go between
Tangiers, isn't it?
Yeah,
ferry goes from there.
Yeah. And he said, it's a piece of piss. All we got to do is drive a car. And I'm like, yeah, fucking whatever. And I think he was probably going to pay, he was going to sort me out with 500-600 quid. I would assume, I can't remember. And so, yeah, okay, I'll do it, whatever. It sounds easy. Just get in the car. And he was in a white Mercedes, and I was in a white Mitsubishi Pajero, like Shogun, 2-door Shogun. Dutch plates. I'm English. Like, really? What a dick.
Alarm bells.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So, and they said they were going to be English plated, but they weren't. It was a Dutch plate. So anyway, we've gone on there and we've gone to Algeciras, and yeah, dude, I mean, literally we were the first couple of vehicles that we just got pulled straight over, like immediately. And I do wonder these days whether we were set up to let some other cars through, which, I suppose now that was exactly what probably
Did you know what you were carrying in that car?
There was nothing in that car.
There was nothing in the motor. Okay.
They were just cars being smuggled over to Morocco, and they disappear into those countries, don't they? Or did do back then. When they start, they probably still do. And so got nicked. So Algeciras, I fucking banged up, didn't I? So I am. I got away with smuggling fucking gear, like your cannabis for 2 or 3 months. It was probably about May time. So moved out there February. In 3 months, we'd done quite a lot of stuff in that 3 months. And got got nicked, Algeciras, we're split up. Pretty fucking shitty prison that was. Yeah. Like that's...
What did you get nicked for?
I think it was false documents, stolen car, false documents, and false plates. It would be something like that. But you don't get nicked. They don't send you to court straight away, do they? So you're in there. You have no idea how long you're going to be there. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody's stories are different. And then they moved me from Algeciras up to Cadiz, to Porto Santa Maria, which is, you've got Porto Santa Maria Uno, which is where the ETA terrorists, all the terrorists and lifers and stuff are. And then 2, Dos, Porto Santa Maria Dos, which is where most of the smugglers are and, and stuff like that. Or back then they were. And that's like, Tracy was still in Fuengirola. That's a fucking 3-hour drive up the coast. And we had like a little VW camper van, or she did. So moved up to there, and initially I'm 18 years old. So 18, no, 19.
Did you both get
19?
Did
no,
you
no,
both
no,
get
no,
just
no,
you?
just me. So I'm 19 years old.
And where was she? In the passenger seat?
No.
She'd gone through.
Yeah, no, she wasn't with me.
Okay.
So it was literally he's in one car,
And
this
you're
Scottish
okay.
Jerry, and I'm in another car.
Okay.
No, his name's Colin. Scottish Jerry got shot. Another story. No, he wasn't. It was one of those ones. You know when people say afterwards. You know when something happens to somebody that's a proper bell end, right? You're allowed to swear on this.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So he's a proper. This guy was a proper right. He's on everybody off. And then when somebody dies, and then they start going, "Oh yeah, isn't it a shame?" No, he wasn't ashamed. The guy was. He properly was. So he got shot. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So this is the ADHD brain disappearing off here, isn't it?
Keep going.
So I'm on my own.
Did they give you? How long did they give you? Did they say to you, "You've got how long?" Did they?
For initially, you don't go to you don't get. So I'd been in Cadiz probably 4 months before I even went to court.
You're joking me. So they've just thrown you in a Spanish
thrown
cell
me in a Spanish fucking prison
and didn't tell you nothing.
Nothing. Nobody knows anything. And the what are they called?
Guardia.
No. When they represent our country in other countries, ambassador, embassy.
Yeah.
So the guy comes from the consulate.
Yeah.
And of course they don't know anything either, and they provide a sort of a solicitor and a translator and stuff like that. But they have no idea. You could be there the whole term and go to court and then let you out. You have no idea. So every day, you'd have no idea what's going to go on. And so first of all, get into that Port Santa Maria, and I'm in there in what in essence was minores, so minors basically, sort of under 21s. But there was me and another English guy. We just get into trouble with like Spanish and Moroccans, like fights and shit. And I wasn't really much of a fighter, but you've got to learn to fucking fight when you're in these places, because these are shit. These aren't nice places to be in. And so they moved us over to another block where there was about 12 English, some Dutch and stuff like that, and it was a little bit more of a mixed community, I should say. Community, what the fuck? And so it was probably, I think I was 4 or 5 months in before I went to court, then went back to court again, and then they gave me a year, which out of that I was going to serve 6 months and 33 days fine or something like that. We worked out 7.5 months. So and that was about 2 or 3 months before sort of getting out. And once you find out, because there's nothing you can do about it. Tracy used to drive up to me once a month, pretended she was pregnant to the consulate, so she could get a vis-a-vis visit, conjugal visit, I think they call them, don't they? Where you get almost like a hotel room. So we could get this proper sort of a visit. So bless her, drive 3 hours up, and she wasn't doing anything naughty after that. That I'd called it, she was like playing it clean. And so she had money, but that was going to run out at some stage. But she still used to drive up and see me. And she did regularly and write letters and all sorts. And I spoke to my mum. Terry tried to get hold of me, and I wouldn't speak to him while I was in there. The consulate was like, "You don't have to speak to him if you don't want to." And I'm like, don't tell him. I tell him I don't want to speak to him. I did not want to speak to my father at all.
Did you struggle not speaking the language in the Spanish, Nick?
I picked up Spanish.
Yeah.
I did pick up Spanish, but because we were in a wing that was in essence, there was a lot of mixed, English speaking. It wasn't too bad, but it was bizarre. Anyway, I could tell you all sorts of things about that. December comes, and again, you don't know what day you're going to get out. You could serve the whole 12 months and then just forget about you. It was happening in there. People would go over the time. But I worked. So I worked in the library, I worked in the gym, and doing those things tends to help. So that buys you some time, basically. You get days off and things like that, off your sentence for doing the work, which is pretty standard, probably, I would have thought. And then it's sort of beginning mid-December, and then one day they've literally called the post. So I've gone to get my letter, and then they've called my name straight away. And every time they call your name, you think you're going to get released. It's because you get sort of excited. And I remember getting up, and I've got the letter. I was just about to open it, and it was from England, and it was in Tracy's writing, and I didn't know she'd come back to the UK. And so I was about to open this, thinking, God, she's obviously gone back because she's run out of money or whatever. And then they've called my name again, and I've gone over, and they said, "You're getting out." I'm like, fuck. Go and get your stuff. 2 black plastic bags with all my clothes in it and basically all my belongings. Literally 2 bin liners. And then stick me in a holding cell. This was in probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 8 o'clock at night, I'm still in this holding cell. And then I'm waiting and and I keep asking. And then fuck this. I open this letter. Tracy's back in the UK and she's gone home for Christmas. She's spoken to her mum and she said, listen, I think I've got to pull out of this. I can't do this relationship anymore. I've supported you all this. And I sort of got it, but it hurt. The day I'm getting released, I find out that she's left. So I've got nowhere to go back to either. And I'm like 3-4 hours away. And they give you like a train ticket. But by the time they'd release me, the trains had stopped fucking running. There was another guy who got released at the same time. We ended up going for a drink actually, or he took me for a drink. And so I spent the night in a bus shelter basically for the night, and then got a train back to Fuengirola, which took me most of the day. But I didn't know anybody there. Like everybody, these places change in a few months, don't they? And you're talking December, so the bars are not open now. Everybody's closed up for the winter. Tracy's gone. And luckily, I did knock on one bar and he was still open and asked around. And they said, I'll go and see so-and-so in another bar. And I went to go and see him. I don't really remember what happened there. I ended up staying somewhere for a couple of nights and then bumped into Colin, Scottish Colin. I bumped him and stayed with him for a little while. In fact, that night, I got absolutely fucking wasted, Dodge. Like properly wasted after we got on the gear. And drank like there was no tomorrow after not drinking for like 7 months. That was a messy night. Anyway, and so that period then restarted then where I had to build everything from scratch. I had nothing, like 2 bags, no money, nothing, literally nothing
at all.
What
was your first point of call to earn a £1 note when you come out of Nick?
Well, but the bar work I knew I could do, couldn't I? And people said you got the gift of the gab. So I suppose... I think the bar that I got sent to go and chase up this Colin or whoever I'd asked for in there, I think I'd spoken to him and then went back in there and sort of befriended him like I did when I was 18 when I left home. Befriended the owner of the bar and sort of got myself, it's a situation, right? There's an opportunity there. And I think I started working in there. In fact, I did.
Did you get back to selling
No, I started
cannabis again?
No, pills.
No. Pills, was it?
Pills in the bar.
How did you get involved in the pill game?
I was running a bar around the back of, do you know the London pub it was?
Yeah.
So around the back there's a real shitty fucking alley of little bars.
Yeah, most of it is.
Yeah, but there's literally an alley right at the very back of it. I think they've closed it off. I remember going back there about 15 years ago and it's all closed off now. And I thought, really? We've run a bar in there. It looks like a fucking den of iniquity. Yeah. So it was a little bar there. And of course, because you've always got people coming in and out, we got to know the Scousers, all the Scousers and the Cockneys, all the Londoners. Everybody was doing business.
Everyone was
down
at
there.
it.
Scousers were doing pills. They come in, ended up giving me some. And so it all sort of, then I just ended up dealing pills out of the bar, which most people were, to be honest.
Do you remember how much they were back in the day? 10, 15 euros?
I don't even know that they would have been that. Would they have been that?
Don't know.
No, mate, they can't have been that. It'd be €5, maybe 10, maybe 5 or 10 euros. And I would have been paying €1.
Okay.
Probably something like that.
How did that business escalate for you?
It didn't really, because we're just fucking taking pills all the time, going out 4 days of the trot, no sleep, eating them like Smarties. They suited me. Yeah. They suited me. Fucking suit me better than alcohol. I fucking love amphetamine. Yeah. I mean, and of course now I understand why ADHD amphetamine sort of works, right? But yeah, we just used to eat them like literally like Smarties. That microdots. And so I would end up trading some of them off for microdots and things like that. So I knew somebody else that had those, and we just basically caned them. So I was known as Mr. E, the dancing barman, right? Mr. Elliot and E sort of went hand in hand, right? Yeah. But in being in that bar, did it escalate? It did escalate, because it went from pills to then meeting somebody that had been to Morocco a couple of times and had been up into the mountains. And I was fucking fascinated by this. Up into the mountains to go and buy his gear from there. Right, I say gear, not coke. So everybody sort of thinks of gear as coke these days. But cannabis resin, numero uno. Pollen that is basically squeezed into caramellos, like little sort of 5 gram sort of caramel, little sort of like almost sweet size, hence why they're called that. And he had this stuff, and this was amazing. This is the best smoke I'd ever had, right? So I sort of said, listen, I'd love to come over there and do that. And he was paying what, £150 a kilo, and he was saying it was back in Bristol. It was worth $7,500 a kilo. That's a good fucking margin. I want a bit of that. So we organised a trip over there, and I went over there with him. Nickname was Slug, because he used to do that all the time. So I called him Slug, which I can't remember his name. Yeah. Pete, I think. Anyway,
I don't think he would have told you his name.
No, well, he used to come into the bar all the time, but yeah. So we basically we went over there, and we would have got the ferry over there, and then you get a taxi from.
So you gone from south of Spain, across
on a ferry
to Tangiers in Morocco.
Tangiers, and in Tangiers, get a taxi.
Yeah,
and you get in a taxi. And he knows where he's going, and you basically, there is one route up into I think it's the Kif Mountains, isn't it? You know, up to a place called Belberet, Chef Sharon is where the sort of weed is still grow it now, but that's where we were going. And there's one route. The route. Right, I remember the road splits off, and that one road goes up into the mountains. So I've gone up with Pete, and it's getting darker and darker, and you're going up these roads, and it's pitch fucking black. You can see the mountainside going up there, and it's a sheer drop down the other side of the taxi. And as you're going up this track, which is just wide enough for a car, you've got these Golf GTIs and things that every so often will start bibbing behind you, right? Flashing their lights, and they overtake on a bit that just gets wide enough and then stop the taxi. And it's like, what the fuck's going on here? And what they're doing is they want you to buy from their farm. So they're out there poaching business on these fucking roads. This road that's literally no wider than a car. They've got these little bits that are and they literally stop you. So what you do is you wait till they stop, and the taxi drivers are pretty savvy. They then go round that, which is dodgy on a road that's not very right. And that happens. And of course, the first time you're doing this, I'm shitting my pants. I have no idea what the fuck's going on here. That probably happened 3 or 4 times on this road that goes on for probably an hour and a half, right? And then suddenly he tells the taxi driver to slow down. We go over this, what looks like the edge of the road. And it opens up, and I remember the trees and the lit up church, and then you get to these big metal gates, and the big metal, he gets out, big metal gates open. It's nighttime. Drive in, and then we stay there for the night, right? So we're going to stay there for the night. So there's like an area where there's a load of people sort of staying there, workers basically, and wake up the next morning. And it's fucking stunning, Dodge. I never forget how stunning it is up there. Like you're talking, it's mountains, and the sort of the mist lifts off. I remember the mist lifting off, and for as far as I can see, it's green, right? Lush valleys, mountains behind you, lush valleys, mountains in the background, but it's just stunning. And as you're looking at the green, you're realizing that it's weed, and these plants are probably waist high at that stage, the first time we go up there. But they would have had another crop. So we end up staying there for like 3 or 4 days and watch them make the stuff. So they beat the plants and get all the pollen out. And then what they do is they then squeeze that over in essence, vapor, like hot steam basically, until they turn it into that. Wrap it in cling film. And then we're going to swallow that and then stick up, which is really fucking unpleasant every time I fucking talk about it, which is not very often. Ugh, makes my arse clench. Dude. Ugh,
you weren't working a 9-bar up there, were you?
Oh, fuck, it wasn't a 9-bar, but it felt like it.
It'd be like throwing a sausage down the Bakerloo line.
Like, might be these days after that. But they're three sort of round sausages, basically, hard, that you push up there, and it's like imagine putting 3 pool balls in a sock. No. Like that, it's that, do you know what I mean? Uncomfortable. And then swallowing stuff with honey. So you're swallowing these things with honey as well to get them down. You've got to empty your system out, basically. And I can't remember how much we would have had in there. But you probably, I don't know, it doesn't matter how much. Yeah. But between us, maybe a key and a half, maybe a key and a quarter. I can't imagine how much you would have inside you. It doesn't matter how much. But, good margin. Yeah. Get back in the taxi. Of course, honestly, all you do want to do is your body wants to reject this stuff. You want to shit it out. Yeah. So you're in the back of the taxi, clenching for 2 hours. Yeah. Get back down to Algiers. Yeah. I'd forgot the name of where it was, to be honest, but you're right. Get on the ferry, and the ferry back. This is a long journey. Yeah. Then get back to the apartment, shit these things out, wait until everything passes through your system, and then pack those into fucking tins.
Okay.
Right? Now, I learnt this off what is my oldest son's mother, because she'd been doing this stuff for years.
Let's give her a shout out. Not going to mention.
We'll talk about this in a little while now. I mean, we'll talk about this in a little while. So you pack it into what in essence were those tins that you get olives in. Yeah. So you pack those in, you'd open up the top part of the tin, and then you do in such a way that when you put the two bits of tins together, it looks like a full tin, and you pack it tight, right? Pack those, literally stick those in a suitcase and then fly them back. So of course we go back to there, sell that.
So then you were flying back to England?
Flying back to the UK.
Okay, so you're going to the source and doing it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Flying it back to the UK.
Yeah.
But into Bristol, I can't remember what airport we would have flown into, doesn't really matter. And then flown into there. And done that. We've probably done that a couple of times. Month or so later, a couple of guys come into the bar, and this is where things fucking move up a gear, because I end up meeting Russell Tate, Pat Tate's brother.
Pat Tate's younger brother.
Yeah. And Russ and I got on straight away, like his millionaire fucking smile. Yeah. Great guy, great sense of humour, big guy, but we just got on really, really well. And so he knew that we'd done it. We were chatting about this, and I didn't know about Pat at this stage. Russ didn't keep his personal life and stuff. He sort of kept apart. He was quite separate to Pat, to be fair. They have different crews completely. And so he knew about that, and I'd done this trip, and then one of the trips. I told him about, because we'd had to go to Amsterdam. We didn't have to go to Amsterdam. We went to Amsterdam to try and sell this stuff, thinking Amsterdam, you can sell this fucking gear, no problem at all. Nobody wants to buy off you because they've all got their own people to buy off, right? Still, these to this day, exactly the same. They buy a bit of personal. So, of course, we've taken all the stuff out of these tins in the dam in this fucking hotel room, and then I've got to get it back. But I can't get it back into these tins. I don't have all the stuff to do it in a hotel room. I had everything we could in the apartment to make these tins up. And I've literally gone, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to wrap it in a towel in my suitcase. What can I do? I've got no choice. We need to get back to the UK and sell this stuff and get back to Spain, because we're running out of money. We can't sell it down in Amsterdam. We've been there about 2 weeks. And so we've got a KLM City Hopper, which is like a 10-seater or 12-seater or something, from Amsterdam into Bristol Airport. All this stuff's just wrapped in a towel in my suitcase. Got to Bristol, and because they're little planes, fucking hell. Fuck's sake. Because they're little planes, right? My fucking case isn't put on the fucking same plane. So it's not come through.
Oh,
so I've spoken to them. I've said, and I don't know whether to speak to them or not, Dodge. Like, do I fucking ask them? Yeah. Or are they waiting for me to turn up to say, is that in my case?
I'll be straight out of the airport.
I'm open, but I didn't.
Yeah, okay.
And they said, oh no, I think your case has been put on the next plane. It'll be about an hour. If you want to wait, or we can send it to you. And I'm like, fucking send it to me. Do I wait? I'll let my mate go. I'll say, listen, you go. And I'm waiting there, and I'm shitting myself. Like, I don't know whether to go. And I've probably spent probably an hour, 2 hours wondering whether to go, stay. And I'm thinking money. There's fucking money in that case. And there would have been at least 15. There probably would have been 12 grand. 12 grand's worth of gear in that case, basically. Yeah. And I thought, fuck it. And I don't know why I had self-belief. And do you know what? I did as well. I think that's the thing, is I believed. And I had complete belief that it would happen. The planes landed, and this fucking chief customs officer, is walking towards me with my suitcase. Like, walking towards, just deadpan looking at me. And I'm thinking, I'm fucking done here, aren't I? But I've now got to wait. I can't run. I can't go anywhere, because I've got to just wait it out. And he walks up to me and gives me a case. I'm really sorry about this, Mr. Browne. Gives me a fucking case. If only he'd known. And I walk out the airport. So of course I'm telling Russ about this, recounting this like it's fucking funny. And he's going, yeah, he's obviously thought, you could fucking make some money here. You clearly got some bollocks. And so that is where I then got some connections in Essex, and obviously had them in Spain as well, to then start driving fucking slightly larger amounts back to the UK. And that's where that sort of journey started, mate, to be honest. And that's where it is. We probably started with 20 key, had a Astra van, bought that at some auctions, probably Chelmsford car auctions, I would have thought, where there was loads of knocked off fucking cars going through the auctions, right? Mm-hmm. And in these Astra vans, right, behind the back seats, it's the same body as an Astra estate. So you've got a cutout, haven't you, where the back seats would sit. So behind the seats, you're nodding like you fucking know this shit as well. Yeah, so behind the seats there's this gap, and you could fit about 140 key in there. So I created a panel, put 20, 30 key in to start off with, get that back to Essex because I had contacts there through certain people.
Through who?
Through Russ. So Russ introduced me to people, basically.
Did Russ introduce you to his brother Pat Tate?
I did meet Pat about 3-4 weeks before he got shot. Yeah.
Okay.
I was literally sat on the couch, and that Range Rover was literally sat on Russ's drive.
Was it?
Yeah, about 3-4 weeks before, and I took the news to Russ.
What, you took the news that his brother got shot with Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe?
I was sat in a bar having breakfast with Jess.
Jess is who?
My son's mother, oldest son's mother. I was sat having a bar. I didn't really buy newspapers, but I bought the Sun for some reason, and I don't know why, but I didn't really notice the picture on the front. But it was a Range Rover. I don't know. I didn't put two and two together at that stage. I don't think you would have done. No. Why would you do?
Yeah.
Front page newspaper. Sat there having breakfast, and I'm reading it. And as I'm reading it, I'm just sort of scanning it. Really, I've read Pat Tate, Craig Rolfe, Tony Tucker, and I'm like, fucking read it again. I'm like, fuck. It's fucking happened. And the reason I'm saying it's happened is there had been rumours that there was shit going down in Essex anyway. Like, there was stuff going on then, wasn't there? And I have to be honest with you, I feared that it could even be fucking us at one point, because you never know who you're mixing with, who you're dealing with. You know, we had to have a gun in Spain, had to have a gun in the UK, because when you're moving bags of fucking of stuff, 100 grand's worth or 50 grand's or whatever, 30 grand's worth, you gotta just, I'm not Billy fucking big bollocks carrying a gun around. What the fuck? I was a dickhead. It's a great way to get shot, to be honest. But yeah, so sat there, and I've gone fuck, and I've gone down to go. Russ was down on the south coast at the same time. I knew where he was, Los Boliches way somewhere, I think. And drove down. It was a weird day, mate. It was a weird day because I think he expected something might happen. And so I told him, I remember him opening the door, and I said, "Look, dude, your fucking brother's been shot." Gave him the newspaper, and we went on a bender that day. And it was one of those, when you look at certain English gangster films where there's moments where shit just hits the fan, and it was like 1 minute we're fucking high, probably doing coke, I would have thought, and drinking Jack Daniels, because that was my drink of choice at the time. We would have got fucked up that day, and 1 minute we'd have been laughing, the next minute he'd have been crying. Fuck, you don't want it's one of those. Because although he wasn't necessarily close to his brother, he's still his brother, right?
Yeah.
And that was in the December, and we'd been moving a bit back at that stage, driving backwards and forwards, building the sort of the amount up. But yeah, that was a weird day, mate. That was a weird fucking day. Russ obviously flew back and had to deal with things. Yeah, that was December, wasn't it?
1995.
1995, yeah.
What was bubbling? You said a minute ago things were bubbling around Essex that time. Did you get a feel that things weren't right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Russ and I were, we were pretty close, or as close as I thought we were. Probably you're not as close as I thought I was then, but we were pretty close. I mean, I stayed with his, family. I knew his wife and kids and stuff, so, I think we even spent Christmas, probably even spent Christmas there and stuff, in Benfleet area, somewhere around there. Do you know what? I never had an issue with Russ. I think, he was pretty fiery, but I never had an issue with him. But so there would definitely be talks of what's going on. And, we would go out at times, and of course you'd overhear bits of conversations, and I was out with him. We'd be out in, I don't know that it was Raquel's, but places like that, the stuff that was the South End clubs and stuff. You'd be going out to places like that occasionally, and of course you're mixing with people, you get introduced. But I must have looked like like the lackey, mustn't I? Do you know what I mean? Fucking 21 years old, little fucking geeky glasses, and sort of hanging around with these fucking big guys, basically. Trying to be Charlie Big Potatoes, but I'm not. And So yeah, there was definitely a sort of a thing going around, and of course, so Russ would tell you about Pat going into a pizza place or kicking off in a fucking restaurant and stuff like that. And his son was actually getting some stick at school because of his uncle, basically. And which you can imagine in the real world
Russell's
now.
son was getting
Russell's
stick.
son was getting stick.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, obviously, because you're going to get certain kids at school, aren't you? You look back now and you think that makes sense at the time. Russell then kick off and go and see one of their parents, I'm sure. But anyway, so that was that. So I was fairly close to him. We were sort of mates. And so we built up.
What was Pat like when you met him?
Yeah, dude. He took up the sofa.
Yeah.
He was a big guy. He was a big guy. I was intimidated. In fact, they probably asked me to leave the room at one point, I would have thought, because, he sort of introduced me to Pat. And I do remember his handshake, big hands, right? But I wouldn't have been in the room very long. I think I would have been sat there and then they would just sort of, do you mind sort of leaving us to it? So it wasn't like I was privy to, conversation stuff. And that was the only time I'd ever saw them together. It's like literally, they weren't together very often. They genuinely didn't really get on very well, I don't think. Not that I think Pat got on with everybody, to be honest, So it was a brief meeting, but weird later on, years later, when you see the film come out and you think, fuck me, I sat there only weeks prior to that, of how close that could be. So anyway, because we're going to go on this for this could take a while, right? We get past Christmas, so that Christmas that's happened, and then Jessica is then. She's coming into the car with me. She hadn't done initially. Doesn't really matter up to this point because I could go into so much detail because it's bringing so much back. I have to be honest with you. In fact, it was on the drive here. I was thinking of things because I've masked and hidden this stuff for a long time. Close friends and family know a lot of these things, and I've spoken about it on stage a little bit on Clubhouse, but really not a lot. Even a couple of years ago, you even said, "Yeah, speak about it," and I was like, "Oh, I don't know."
Yeah.
But anyway. It's February.
Yeah.
And
1996.
1996 was a bitch. Yeah. 95 came alive. 96 was a bitch. Yeah, fuck me. It's February, beginning of February. And Did
you have the fear at all?
No.
When the lads got shot and that was going on. You had a link with Russ, the brother. Did you think, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I could get clobbered here. I'm going to get a tug or someone's on me or.
Dude, I'm not being funny, but I was like that before.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I had, I didn't talk about this recently. I had eczema on my forehead a little bit from stress. You're constantly looking in your rearview mirror. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. You're constantly driving around the fucking estates before getting back. Of course, you never know whether you're going to get robbed by somebody or whether you're going to get nicked, do you? Leaving that airport that day, I think I was probably looking over my shoulder for 2 days thinking, well, if they do know something, they could be following me from that airport in Bristol. And that's early before I even started driving the stuff back, But I didn't trust anybody else to drive it. That was my biggest problem. Everybody's going, why didn't you just get somebody else to drive now? I'm like, fucking who am I going to trust to drive that? Really? So it's February. And we set off in a white Astra van. And it was a beautiful, beautiful day, actually. So it's nice on the south coast. And you drive up through Spain at that time of year, you're going to hit 4 seasons going up into the mountains. And we didn't go through the normal border, right? The big borders like Bordeaux, because... Well, why the fuck would you? When you've got all these little borders in the Pyrenees that you can drive through, and there's no customs post there.
What's warming you to go to France?
Well, because you've got to drive through France to get back to the UK.
Yeah.
So you've got to drive all the way back. I'm not going to get a ferry in the north of Spain
and around and up,
which I suppose you could do, but then you've got customs to go through.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a 3-day drive. But
it felt safer.
Yeah, of course, 100%. Of course, but you're driving it, and it's a beautiful drive. I used to love doing the drive. Yeah. So you drive, you're going up, and so you come through the Zaragoza desert. And then you start changing. You come up into the mountains, and as we're driving up into the mountains, it's getting colder and colder. It's February time, and then there's more and more snow, and there was like a fucking snowstorm. So there's me, Jessica is with me, and she's 3 months pregnant at the time as well, by the way. And so we're driving back, and it's the snow's that heavy. The normal border we go through, the road's closed going up to it, and I know that if we go back onto the main drag, that border, there's a customs post there, because there's a couple of main ones in the Pyrenees, but then there's some small ones which are just for tourists driving through. You drive through, you don't even know you're from one country to the next. Have you ever driven through those? Have you?
Yeah.
Beautiful up there, man. Valleys, fucking waterfalls coming over the roads, like stunning, right? It's absolutely stunning. So we pulled into a hotel because I was nowhere I was going to go through, thinking it might clear, we might get through another border. Stayed at a hotel for the night. And I said, why don't we just go skiing for a couple of days or something, just stay here. But we sort of had to get back because I think we'd arranged to meet somebody at that, a couple of days later, because we've got a reasonable amount with us and we want to shift this stuff as quickly as possible. I never like holding on to it, right? You want to get back and get it gone. So we stay in the hotel for the night, and I get up the next morning, and I remember this so fucking vividly. It was the restaurant was really, really quiet, which was bizarre, but then it doesn't matter. It was really quiet. I remember all of the napkins. I remember everything laid out. I remember this restaurant. I remember everything being white, and I also remember the big windows going out onto what was the car park to see the van, and it was all white outside as well. So I just remember it was really, really white, like it was just like virginal white. It was pure. And we were chatting. I'm talking to Jessica, and I'm going, I got a bad. I just not got a great feeling. I think we should just stay here for a couple of days. And then she's going, well, yeah, but if we go back, you'd be all right, blah blah blah. And if we could just go through that other border. Spoke to the hotel guy, and he said, well, no, listen, you can go back to the other one. I didn't tell him you can go through the other border. We're not going to question why if we want to go through another one, but he said go through the other border. And I don't think I would have ever asked you if there was anybody there. And my gut instinct is just telling me that it's not a good idea. And I said to Jessica, if we go through today, this will be my last breakfast in freedom. And those words will never leave me. In fact, it could well be the name of a book. And I was so sure of it. I have no fucking idea why I went against my gut instinct. The stupidest fucking thing ever. Like, what the fuck? But we did. Got in the car, and I knew. My instinct was just bad. It was just, like alarm bells are ringing. And as we got there, there's a bit of traffic because everybody's going through this border. And once you're there, you can't fucking. You could turn around, but it looks sus. Yeah. And so, of course, then they're letting everybody through, and they pull one, but they let everybody pull in. They pull somebody up over in front of us because they pulled out in front of us. I think, we can be okay. And fuck for that. Because it's a numbers game, right? But they don't. They pull us over as well. And this is a stage where, for some unknown reason, it's like you think you're still going to get away with it. Your brain's telling you you're going to get away with it because I've obviously done a few things before and got away with it, right? And there've probably been some hairy moments, I'm sure, going through borders before. And then they've got us out of the car, and we stood there by the van. And they've had a look round. They've pulled everything out the back of the van, and they've sent the dog in. And the dog's basically, I don't know whether he's reacting because I'm not sure how they're supposed to react, but taking the dog out. And then one of the customs guys, I remember him now, he's gone round and he's basically looked behind the front seats, and he's seen this panel isn't quite right. Rather than even ripping that panel up, the other guy's brought a crowbar around, hasn't he? And so he's basically crowbarred up the fucking floor. And then start pulling out these fucking packs, 110 fucking kilos of it. And I wrapped all those fuckers as well. The thing that was going through my head is all that hard work. Seriously, I was thinking all that hard work because the dog didn't pick it up. Yeah, Vaselined up, strapped like in plastic bag, vac pack, the whole fucking lot. Like it was well done. And I'd been meticulous about that, but I hadn't been meticulous enough about the detail, had I? So 110 kilos. So they cart me off, and I've said she didn't know anything about it. Jessica didn't know anything at all. But the French don't give a fuck, to be honest. They bang us both up. Again, you don't know what's going to happen initially. They don't tell you what's going to happen. They don't send you to court. You go straight into a place called Pau. So this is in Oloron, this border. Pau, P-A-U, I think it was called. And then put us in a police station, and then in prison, basically. And do you know what? Telling me about my eczema, within days of being in there, it cleared. Because I had nothing to fucking worry about anymore.
Maybe it's a bit relief in
there. And a few people have said to me, what was French prison like? And I was like, do you know, it was all right. When I got there, it was okay. It was, I think because I'd done something before that was far worse, the prisons were far worse, that actually was okay. And so Jessica and I, you know, they were.
Did Jess know you were carrying?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I took the rap completely, and I kept telling the police, she doesn't know, let her go. I knew, she had no idea at all.
Why did you have Jess with you?
Because it looks better with more than one person. Got camping gear in the back and stuff. You get a bit just on your own in a little van looks a bit sus, right? Okay. And we had loads of fags and stuff in the back, so we were just driving backwards and forwards, you know, going away. Yeah. Well, they gave me 4 years, and they gave her 2.
Oh mate, they gave Jess 2,
and she was pregnant. So they moved us to Bordeaux. They moved her to Bordeaux initially. And when I found out, one of the screws basically come and knocked on the door and said, you know, Jessica's been moved. Because I said to him, if she ever gets moved, let me know. Because they move people without letting you know, right? Yeah. And I remember kicking the fucking door, kicking shit out the door. And I was a really calm prisoner, right? I'm very respectful. I know, you know, treat them fucking right. They treat you right? Don't suck up to them, but, you know, just be a decent person. Yeah. And this one night, though, he fucking came in and he said, I'm going to have to restrain you if you keep... And he was getting threatening. And this guy was... Psychopath was somebody else, but he's a big guy. It doesn't matter. Fucking, it brings back so much stuff. Anyway, I'd kick shit out the door because I wanted to get moved because they'd moved her. They said, listen, I think she's going into labour, she's going to in a few days. So they've moved her to Bordeaux. We can't deal with her here. And so, of course, then I kicked up utter shit to get moved. And they did move me. By the time I got moved, she'd already given birth. I wouldn't have been there anyway. So she gave birth in prison? They put her in Bordeaux prison, in a hospital. They took her to the hospital in Bordeaux. And then they put her back in prison with the baby, with my son,
mate.
Yeah. So she did.
That's brutal.
It is brutal, yeah. I think I met him and I saw her for the first time. I think he was about a week old. So there was into prison sort of visits. They literally chained me up and everything, trained me from where I was to where she was, which was a 20-minute drive, literally handcuffed and leg cuffed and fucking the works, so I could have a 20-minute visit with her. And obviously we were putting these like sort of little meeting cage things, and sort of obviously I held him for the first time when he was about a week old, and then she did what he would have done 6 months of his life in there. So first 6 months of his life he would have spent behind bars, and then she did a year. She got out after a year. France was weird, you know. It was all right. I got really fucking fit in there actually, but I worked in there as well. I got jobs in there and stuff. But did you not have any guilt? Bringing your missus? Yeah, 100%. When you're carrying on a job like that, carrying 110 kilos, what was that worth? 110 kilos back then? Yeah, quarter of a million quid. A £250,000 as it stood. Yeah. Street value, I think the French valued it at fucking some stupid amount of money, like £1 million or something like that, which, you know, probably more than that actually, if you think about it, because they would do it like by gram, don't they, I suppose. So to us, it was worth £250,000, yeah. And we'd already massed some money anyway. Yeah. But that was going to be the last fucking one. I know everybody says this. That was genuine. But would it have been the last one? 100%, because I was then going to collaborate. Yeah. And then there would have been boats and planes and bits and pieces like that. So that was the bit that got you into the next level. Yeah. But the next level, what would that have done for me, Dodge? People getting fucking shot. Would I have died? Would I have done a longer term at some stage? Or would you have borrowed money off someone to do a bigger job and then get nicked? You're paying someone to get nicked, they got nicked, and you'll due that fellow half a bar or half a mil or whatever. And that's the problem. Yeah. You never would have known. Yeah. Because I knew Russ, so I did 2.5 years, but probably about 18 months, 2 years in, Russ and the ex-girlfriend that I moved to Spain with, doesn't matter what happened, but Russ had ended up going out with her best mate. Long story, doesn't really matter what happened, but they were doing other stuff that I was unaware of. I sort of knew bits and pieces, but they were doing their own thing, right? And they'd got nicked, so his solicitor had contacted me to do a written thing saying that I wasn't doing business because they were trying to pin me and Russ together. Yeah, okay. And do you know why? One, I'd been pulled over speeding in the BM that I'd had off him, which was a 525 BM. But also, even back fucking then, they had phone records. And they knew that we'd been in similar places at similar times. So they thought that we had been working together. And so they were trying to pin him on not just, probably other stuff as well, but I was aware, but trying to pin him with me so that it was, and they'd been caught with a little bit, but it was a conspiracy thing really. And hadn't been caught with a lot, but they'd been following boats and planes and bits and pieces for quite a while. And so his solicitor came over to see me, and I said, yeah, I'll happily say that I wasn't involved with him, and yes, he was a mate of mine and blah. So I did a written thing, and I was expecting my wisdom teeth to be removed one day, and so they called me. I'm up in the north, by the way. This time I've gone from the south after Jessica was released. Spent some time in Fresnes, which was in Paris. That was fucking shocking. Like that fucking shocking prison.
What, the prison was?
Yeah, mate.
Was it?
Awful.
Okay.
Yeah, like proper Victorian, old school. Yeah. Like you couldn't look at the screws and stuff. Like it was, we were there for about 3 months, but a lot of people travel through there, pass through there. Nasty place. And then to the north, Gradignan, I think it was called. And that in essence is where they released a lot of the people that were, being caught down the south. They moved them up to north so they don't have to travel so far. And so they come and collect me one day, and I just assume I'm going to go and have my wisdom teeth removed because I was due to. And as we're driving around the corner, and I'm in a police van on their own, and I'd recognised 2 officers in the front, but you see a lot of these, so you don't need to think much of it. And as we're pulling round, I've realised why I recognise one of them when I see 2 English number plates in the car park of a police station, which we're now pulling into, and there's me thinking I'm getting my fucking wisdom teeth removed. And I thought, well, the fuck, this is 2 and 2. They're trying to pin fucking things on Russ. English, these guys, they're the guys that caught me. These are the 2 guys that come up all the way that nicked me a year or 2 previously with the gear. And so they put me in a room, and I remember this, concrete block in the floor, handcuffed to it, 2 English customs or police, whoever the fuck they were, proper dickheads as well. Like really aggressive, probably trying to scare me, I think. Sat on one side, and the other 2 on the other side. The two guys that nicked me 2 years beforehand, and they're questioning me, and they're asking me, and I'm going. They said in your statement you said you didn't know who it was for, and I went, well, yeah, I was kind of trying to fucking get away with it, and they're going, well, you're saying now it's yours, and I'm going, well, yeah, of course I'm saying it's fucking mine because it was mine, and they say, but you're saying you weren't doing this with Russ. I went, no, I wasn't doing it with Russ. We see you've done a statement. How about if we can try and get you released immediately if you say you were, why the fuck am I going to say that? Why do I want to? I wasn't in the same business as him. Just because we were mates and I know certain people does not mean I was doing this with him. And they grilled me for 2 hours. It got pretty aggressive as well. And then just took me back to the police station. So they really tried to pin them on me. I mean, I think Russ ended up going down for a couple of years. A conspiracy thing in the UK, and the girls ended up doing some time as well. My ex-girlfriend and stuff, not Jessica, but my ex-girlfriend from the years previously, and her best mate who was going out with Russ. They were going out with each other. So, listen, I was not a good career criminal, mate. the whole 2 years inside was. I didn't know what I was going to do though, but I didn't want to continue doing what I was doing. It wasn't like I was in there. And I think the first time I got nicked, I was like, I could see opportunities while I was down on the South Coast. This time I was like, 2.5 years, nah, this is not for me. And there was guys in there that had been done for more time. I actually didn't do too bad really, because if you'd been caught about a year previously, they were doing much harsher.
I was about to say 4 years is quite light for carrying that amount of
110. It was probably, they'd relaxed it a little bit. So I was more than most, but I don't, because most people were about 60, 70 kilos and I was 110. I got the top of what people were getting. A lot of people were getting sort of 3 years, but there was lads in there that were caught 2 years previously with less, getting 6, but they were relaxing it a little bit more, I think, at the time. So was I lucky or not? I don't know, mate. It still feels like a long fucking time, 2.5 years. And of course, when I got out, I thought, this is not the life for me. And I had to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. Well, that's where the journey started, I suppose, really.
What was that feeling like?
Getting out?
No. Copper coming around, sniff a dog, bang, pop, and then pulling it out. What was that going through your mind at that moment?
I've recounted this on stage. Your mouth goes really dry. It's weird. I remember my mouth going really dry, and there's an empty pit feeling, like pit. You feel really hungry, like sick hungry, sort of weird. But also I think you still think you're going to get away with it, and you still think there's a glimmer of a hope something might happen. You might get away with it. So I think the brain focuses on the fact that you might get away with it, not the fact that you're nicked. And that's all I can think of, is that I just thought still at that stage. And I think even in the police cell, you still think, if I keep telling them something, they might believe it. I might be okay. I might be all right. Like being outside of a headmaster's office, I'm going to get away with this. So I'm going to be okay. I might get into trouble a little bit, but I'm going to go. I think your brain goes to that sort of almost like a childlike sort of mentality where you think you're still going to get away with it. That's how I think I felt.
How's it been? How old were you when you had to tell your boy that he was born in prison?
I think I told Reese. His mum never told him. He'd heard a few things off his family, but didn't really question it. I think I told him, he's 27 now, so I think I told him when he was about 19.
19?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
I wanted to tell him beforehand, but Jessica didn't want him to know, but he knew already, I think. Yeah, he knew already.
How do you think he knew?
Because I think things were said.
Okay.
He lives at the
overheard.
He lives up in the north of Wales, and all they fucking do up there is drink and take drugs anyway.
Yeah.
Apologies to anybody listening. It's the north of Wales, but you know it's all true, right? And so yeah, there's it's a quite close knit community. People fucking knew stuff about Jessica.
How do you think he feels now as an adult, knowing that he was born in prison?
Mate, he's a very rough diamond. My oldest, very rough.
Yeah,
and that's probably calling him a rough diamond is probably a. It's probably a lighter. He's not got the best genes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his mother and him have the same genes. Let's not go into the details there, but yeah, he's aggressive. I don't think it comes from that.
Well,
I don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
But he'd been in trouble. He gets into trouble regularly, and he's definitely got addiction issues.
Yeah. Okay. So what was your life like? You come out of Nick, were you thinking, right, I'll get bang, I've got to bang at it, or I'm going clean?
No. I didn't want to get bang at it at all. I didn't know, I have to be honest with you. I did not know what I was going to do. I spent most of my life feeling fucking lost, Dodge.
Yeah.
You know, I think I fitted in when I went down to Spain. You know, there was things I fitted in with. I was just different. I've always been different. I've never felt like I've fitted in. I've always felt like I'm different. And of course, Terry would have made me feel like that as well.
Yeah.
You know, hit him around the head, calling me a dick, whatever he would have said to me to make me feel like that stays with you for forever. I think, to be honest, it's very difficult to shift that stuff. And I know it, you know, but it doesn't make me feel any less unworthy of shit at times. And so I think, you know, it took me a while to understand where I was going to go, probably 2 or 3 months. I moved to Wales initially. And then, you know, the family business is in the Midlands.
So you're roughly here now, mid-20s now, are you?
I'm 23.
23 at this point.
I would have been 23 and a half or something like that, wouldn't I? I'd already done that.
Yeah. So what's your journey been from coming out of Nick to where you are today at 49 years old? Have you been banged up since then?
No.
Have you got in trouble since then?
I've got nothing serious. Nothing serious. I've not been banged up. I've spent a couple of nights in cells.
Yeah. For?
My mate wrote a car off fucking driving away from the police one time, and he spent the night in hospital because he had concussion, and I spent the night in a fucking cell. How does that work?
Were you driving?
No, it wasn't fuck. So he drove away from the police, so they've got a question, haven't they?
Course, yeah.
But yeah, he was hammered.
Yeah,
he was hammered. CL55 AMG.
Oh god,
mate,
quick.
Completely totaled. Yeah, hit a fucking tree. Yeah, hit a tree. That's cut the roof off. To get him out. Yeah. And so I spent the night then. I got done with some pills. Walked into a club a couple of times. You know, I mean, I've always loved pills. Fucking, you know, if you could do them legally now, I would.
Yeah.
I fucking love them. As I said, they suit me. But so my journey really, I ended up getting back involved with the family business.
They suit me.
They fucking do.
Yeah.
They're nice.
Yeah.
I believe some decent ones around again at the moment. I don't know. I won't been to Ibiza for a while, but yeah, I definitely relived that when I got out. You know, I mean, you know, I definitely started going clubbing and stuff, and he really enjoyed that. You know, I do Ibiza and all of that stuff, but I knew that there was more to me than you know, being known for that. And of course, you're carrying around what in essence was a massive impact fucking prison sentence, really. Yeah. Banned from France for 5 years as well. I wanted to fucking go back there in a hurry. Oh, no, I'm all right, thanks. What the fuck? You can ban me forever if you like. I mean, you know, thanks. You know, there was like a free hotel for 2.5 years, but it's not the best accommodation. So I ended up getting involved in family business, and my grandfather didn't talk to me initially. Right, he set up the family business. Reason he didn't do is because Terry, I've been really honest with Terry and my mum about what I was doing. When I was smuggling, I told them what I was doing. In fact, a lot of what I was doing, I think, looking back, and my cousin made me think about this, was actually to prove to Terry that I don't fucking need you and I can go out and do shit on my own and come up and turn up with a nice car with $1,000 in my fucking bum bag every day. You know, that's how I felt. And I still feel like that was how I felt then.
Bum bag. We know we're in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I never used to go anywhere without $1,000 in my bum bag as well back then when I was doing that. And that year when I was smuggling, mate, honestly, you know, the film The Business.
Of course I do.
It's like looking back at that. Yeah. And we've skipped a lot of that stuff because we could be here forever talking about that, right? And I had some great fucking days. In fact, I look back at it and it excites me. It's like looking at somebody at a film that somebody's written about me, and I genuinely think it would make a good film at some stage. Anybody who wants to do a film, just contact me. So, and it was entrepreneurial, right? Whichever way you look at it, there's risk taking in that. There's impulsiveness. There's a serious amount of self-belief when you're doing things like that as well. You're breaking the. You've got to have some sort of ego or fucking bollocks to do that stuff. Yeah. Crime, business. There's not a fucking lot between those two at times. In fact, I think there's more honor in the crime world than there is in business these days. Yeah. Like.
People 100%. Look down at crime world going, and there's no honour in it.
Mate, there's more fucking honour in that.
Than the people in some of the suits in the city.
You're going to fuck somebody over, you're going to get fucked over. Yeah. You fuck somebody over in the UK in business, you get away with it. Because you can't fucking retaliate, can you? So we could go on to that one and fucking go on a proper tangent about business and the business world. There's some in that one, isn't there? Definitely more honour in that. So the family business was in photocopying parts, right? So consumables, one of the biggest in the UK as well. My grandfather was set up in paper. So when I got out, my grandfather was trying to take a back seat, and he'd always driven the business. And my father, I find out later on, rode on his coattails for years and didn't really do a lot of work. Yeah. Like it was my grandfather did the work, and Terry liked to be the sort of.
Why do you call him Terry and not Dad?
Because he's not my dad.
Okay. Is he still alive today, Terry?
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
I haven't seen him for years. I'll tell you why in a minute.
Go on.
I got involved in family business, and the photocopying industry was changing. So people are moving to printers, aren't they? Yeah. And I could see an opportunity here. So I went to them. I went, listen, I think there's an opportunity in the printer market. No, copiers, blah, blah, blah. Terry couldn't even see it. When I spoke to my grandfather, I went, things are changing. You moved from paper into photocopiers. You went from toner into parts, consumables, because that's what people wanted. It's moving away from that. Everybody's got desktop printers now. Everybody's doing printing. Inkjet cartridges is where it's at. And I'd been to one of the business shows, and I knew that one of the toner suppliers was making inks for the inkjet cartridges. So they were already looking at this area, which is the natural progression, right? They're chemical companies making the toners and then go moving to inks. So I said, well, I think we should go into the database, because they supplied all of the copier dealers. And back in the day, there was fucking loads. And that was the money. That was money business,
absolutely,
right? Yeah. You wrote your own fucking multi-millionaires in that industry. Yeah. And lots of independents still as well. Lots of repair guys, copier
Everyone
dealers.
who was in the game of photocopying printing was earning fortunes
They were
back in the day.
fucking minted, minted. And, you know, I grew up in a world that that money was around that, you know. I can't say that it was because of poverty I did what I did. I did for plenty of other reasons.
What were those reasons?
Yeah, probably about what I said a minute ago. I think I wanted to prove to Terry that I was a man and I could go and do something other than have to go to the family business to do something. I just chose the wrong area.
You crammed a lot in, mate.
25.
25, yeah.
How are we doing for time?
Don't you worry about that.
So I was probably, I must have been 20. I must have been 25. So it was 2000. So work that out. I don't know, 20, maybe 27, maybe something like that. Maybe 27. It doesn't matter. That's when I needed to prove to me, nobody else.
Did you ever think about clumping your old man?
Yeah. In fact, oh, fuck. No, yes, I did, but I didn't do it. But let me tell you what I did do. When I hadn't long been out, and no, it was when, oh, fuck. This is why I walked out. I was staying in an annex. So I was going up to the Wales, seeing my son, as I split up with Jessica, right? Who was living in Wales, and I was trying to build my life, right? It was never going to happen up there. That I would just got back into doing shit I shouldn't have been doing. So
like
I've been,
what?
Well, probably dealing.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, if I'd stayed in Wales, which I didn't want to do. Well, I used to get some great drugs from there, to be fair, but I would have ended up dealing.
Yeah.
And that is not. Listen, really not for me. I've already done higher level stuff. I don't want to start dealing.
Do you know that 250, the 110 keys?
Yeah.
Roughly 250 grand. Whose was that 250 grand?
Well, mostly mine, but also somebody else's. But I suppose it's damage limitation, isn't it?
How much do you reckon was yours? How much was it in percentage wise?
Yeah, I put everything into that last one because it was going to be the last one. So I have thought about this. I'm not quite sure. I think probably 2/3 was probably our money.
So 2/3 for you,
and there was some money of somebody else's in that as well.
So he had roughly 70. Someone had 70 grand.
70,
in
80 grand in there.
Where did that 70, 80 grand go? Did it ever come on top of you?
No.
Did anyone, when you come out in Excel,
No.
that, or did it?
No, because I'm not going to fucking say. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not. It's not like that. I'm just not a.
No, so, I'm saying. I mean, the person
afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards. It's like, hold on a minute.
No, because at the end of the day, listen,
did he take
happens.
responsibility to say, if you got nicked, you got nicked. I lose my 70 grand.
100%.
Okay.
But let's face it, this wasn't the only fucking run we'd done.
Yeah.
There was already cash in the UK.
Yeah.
From other runs.
Yeah.
You know, we'd 110 then, but I think the one before that was 90. We were done 70 or 80 before that. Each time we were mounting it up.
Okay.
Like put all the money back in and fucking build it up.
Yeah.
We were still living okay.
Yeah.
So there was money back in the UK. So, you know, it is what it is.
Are you still mates with Russ today?
Russ is doing quite a long stretch for cocaine, conspiracy and coke.
Is he?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure where he is. I haven't had contact with him for years. I did see him after I got out.
How was that?
Yeah, all right. He was a shadow of his former self, I have to be honest with you. But yeah, all right. It was like we had only seen each other yesterday.
Yeah.
We literally bumped into each other in a fucking supermarket of all fucking places in a completely different part of the country. Like it was random as fuck, proper random.
Was it?
Like the most random thing ever. Yeah. And we ended up having a coffee together and sort of spent the afternoon together. Maybe had a couple of drinks and then we kept in contact for a bit. But you know, I think I'd moved on from that life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What is your life today, Elliot? What is your life as you sit today? For the listeners, who are you today?
I'm an ADHD aware helper.
Okay.
I want to help people to understand from the things that I've been through. You know, there's a lot of resilience in a lot of those things. And we haven't even talked about the business side of things, really. But there's resilience in there. There's knowing how to perform. There's knowing how to hyper-focus, which, of course, and now I understand ADHD. You know, this is the space I should be in because I've got a similar brain to 60 to 70%, if not more, of entrepreneurs, right? That's more than 60 or 70% of self-made millionaires and billionaires are ADHD.
How would you know if I was ADHD? or dyslexic, or I've never been tested for anything, so I don't actually know. It seems like a buzzword these days.
Yeah,
like if you were at school and you were dyslexic, you were seen as he's a dyslexic, or he's a wrong 'un, or put him in the corner, or it's like the word mental health, mental kid, put him in. ADHD seems like this real buzzword that's come about in the last 2-3 years, and people are coming out going, "I've got ADHD, and this is a brilliant thing to have because I'm really creative and I'm this."
It's not a brilliant thing to have.
Is it not? If you got it, you've got to be proud of it, surely.
I mean, listen.
What actually is it? What is ADHD?
Oh, it's attention deficit hyper disorder. Not everybody is hyper. I've sat here fairly still.
Yeah.
My legs aren't really going, but I'm quite animated, aren't I?
Yeah.
But the hyper disorder, because it used to be ADD and then ADHD. So ADHD is a hyperactive disorder, and ADD was just attention deficit disorder. But it's now moved into just in being ADHD and different sort of levels of it, I suppose. There's a real contradiction, and you'll see this from my socials, as I think you've probably seen a few of these things. There's a real contradiction. So we are able to hyper focus on things and then get stuff done in less time than probably neurotypicals can do, but not right till the last fucking minute.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know what your timekeeping's like. What's your timekeeping like?
It's all right.
Yeah. Really?
It's all right. Yeah.
Okay. Do you leave things to the last minute?
Depends if it excites me.
Well, you may have to think about it.
Depends me if it excites me.
If it excites you, you'll make more effort.
Oh,
right?
I'm on it. If it excites me, creating a new business, creating a podcast, creating a festival, throwing all the parties and nightclub. If it excites me, I am on it. I don't leave that alone. I can see that. I'm 24/7. Contacts people, open doors, research. It's got to excite me. Things that don't excite me, I have no freaking interest. I don't watch telly. I don't watch the news. I ain't got time for that. I like creating. I don't sit there flicking people's stuff on social media stuff. I like being creative. I like having good people around me.
If you had a project to do that you didn't fucking want to do,
I wouldn't do it.
Right. But if you had to do it,
I wouldn't do it.
Okay, perfect. I mean, there's a few things in there that probably there could be, but that doesn't mean you are. Are you an overthinker? Are you quite impulsive? Do you overthink stuff that it sort of bothers you?
I don't overthink, but I'm always 5 moves ahead.
Okay.
In business,
so you're a real solutions guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm
a problem solver.
You're a problem solver.
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of ADHD.
But that's why, as an entrepreneur, you solve problems.
Which is why a lot of entrepreneurs are ADHD.
Right. Okay.
Because they do solve problems. They'll cut corners.
Right.
Right. You think about
massively.
what we were like at school. If we could cheat, or we had to do an exam, either you wouldn't fucking do it.
I'd find a way to get the answers off someone to do it that I'd get a grade that got me through.
Which is why I probably got a C at GCSE maths and then got into A level and thought, what the fuck is this? Yeah. Because I would have found a way of doing that.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
But there was lots of subjects.
I just got 5 GCSEs.
Yeah.
Didn't do A levels.
Yeah.
But I got to sports university.
Yeah. How the fuck did you do that?
Got in through the door back.
You found a way.
Sport and personality and leadership, and you find a way.
Yeah.
And I got there doing at Loughborough Sports University. Everyone got on that course had to have like A, B, and A levels. I didn't even do A levels. Didn't do exams.
So you managed to get in there and find a way.
Find a way, and then found a way when I was in there to get through that.
I mean, I
actually went to university because I was throwing parties for a living, and I had 12,000 people on campus.
I remember you saying.
I had 12,000 people on campus. I've got to stay here because I'm earning such a load of dough. That was my journey.
That's how that started.
Yeah, that's how it started. For the last
but it excited. So they excited you. So if the things excite us, then we'll be able to actually take part of it. But most things don't fucking excite us. Yeah. You've just literally explained that there's things that excite you, which you've explained what they are, but most things don't. So you don't fucking bother with it.
Yeah, don't bother. Yeah.
And if everybody could be like that, then there would be a lot more successful ADHDers. But the problem is, not everybody has that entrepreneurial flair or an opportunity that comes up, or maybe they're just not even wired that way to do that, or maybe they aren't as risk averse. Maybe they are risk averse. What's averse? Is it one way or the other?
I like risk.
Yeah, so
whether that's risk averse or the other one.
I clearly fucking like risks as well. Yeah. Quite clearly. So we do like to take risks. We're also quite impulsive as well. Yeah. We don't like planning particularly. Planning is fucking boring because it's a bit of a process, right? But big picture thinking and coming up with a solution really quickly, great. Knowing what the first steps are to get there, not so good. Because we're looking at the big picture. We know we can get there. somebody just give us an edge on these first steps, because those first steps don't really suit me. I don't like these bits.
I do the other way. Big picture, go to the end, reverse engineer it, and work my way back.
100%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I use mind maps, which I've spoken about a lot, right? Yeah. Because that's what that does. Yeah. You get the big picture, you start in the middle, and you work, and you in essence work it back. Yeah. So then you can reverse engineer. Yeah. I've done that really successfully. Market stalls, businesses, multi-million-pound business built in the video games industry. I did that with that as well, to understand things I didn't get, because it helps to visualize stuff, right? And you just did exactly that there. You pictured something in your head to work it back. Without that, it's just in here, isn't it? So that's a difficulty. We can think clearly in here, but actually sometimes being able to verbalize that or take action in the right places becomes really difficult. So you've got that. There is overthinking that comes with it. So there will be a lot of, because you're thinking of lots of different things really quickly, then it becomes really overwhelming and you're not sure what to focus on. Now, do the big picture stuff, or reverse engineer something easy, because you can focus on the steps, can't you? But without that, and you don't have that, if you don't get it out of your head, you've got all of these thoughts going on. You're not sure what to take. Maybe there's some doubt setting in. So that's where the overwhelm, and the overwhelm comes in procrastination, because you're not sure what to do first. For you and I, mapping it out, doing something like that, it's the only way it's really going to work. Because if you left it in your head, Dodge, and you didn't put it out like you just did very quickly on the table, then you'd be lost for a while. And then you've got to verbalize it, but you're a quick thinker as well. So trying to verbalize it to people that don't get how you're thinking, you're not necessarily going to be able to say it in the way that they're going to understand. So when you're with your team, I'm assuming you have ways of people understanding certain things now, so they can take action in the areas they need to, which is where good business works.
Yeah, I have people in place there who understand my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's why they've been with me so long, I guess, because they just go bang.
And they get it.
Bang,
yeah. So do you spend much more than 15 minutes in a meeting, or do you get a bit fucking bored? Yeah. No. So there you go. Elon Musk, 15 minutes, walks out.
I'm bang, bang, bang. Let's get on with it. Yeah. Bang. What the fuck? Crack on.
Otherwise, the meeting ends up being about a meeting, about a fucking meeting. About, I don't want to hear the rest of the shit. I've said what I need to say. I'm going to get out of there. Yeah. So, I don't think he's been diagnosed. I think Bill Gates has. And most of the millionaires and billionaires have either got traits or been diagnosed or suspected.
So as an adult now, how do you get diagnosed? Who do you go and see to say, have I got ADHD?
Fucking hell. I mean, go to a private. If you can afford it, go to private. So many people are going private now. The waiting list is fucking 3 or 4 years, 2 to 3, 4 years.
What, for someone to say, got ADHD?
You've got ADHD. To go through an assessment, which is going to take time.
Have you noticed people coming out and saying, I got ADHD, I got ADHD. Everywhere I look now, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Instagram, whatever it is, I've got ADHD. I've got ADHD.
Know why?
People are like really proud of it.
Yeah, because most of those are entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, aren't they?
Yeah, okay.
So I think, forgive me if I get this wrong, but you're 300 times more likely to set a business up if you've got ADHD. Yeah. That doesn't mean you're 300 times more likely for that to work. Because a lot of those people will try and do it solopreneurs. We know plenty of them from Clubhouse, right? I've become a solopreneur more recently. Really fucking difficult, because you're trying to do all the things that are really not suited you. And the phrase I use, can't do, won't do, and don't do. As soon as you fucking find those 3 things out, fucking move them to somebody else. Yeah. Because if you do them, which most solopreneurs are, and if you're an overthinker and you haven't got somebody, the right people around you to help you to understand your strengths, because you think you're good at everything, because at some time we've been good at everything, right? Everything that's in your business, I bet you've done once really fucking well. But you don't want to do it again, do you?
Well, I know what I'm not good at. Yeah. So I get people in that are amazing at it. I want them to be better than myself at all of the stuff. Yeah. You're great at that, you're great at that, you're great at that. I know what I'm good at. Yeah. I'm good at with people, I'm good with opening doors, I'm good with communication, I'm good with chatting, I'm good with big ideas. Yeah. And then you crack on. That's your bit. Let them crack on. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a real dark side to ADHD that becomes quite and I've definitely experienced this. After finding out I think I started going on a bit of a journey of self-discovery. And I was diagnosed by a psychologist that works with ADHD patients in New York. He'd heard me on Clubhouse, very early days of Clubhouse, and contacted me. And it was around the time I'd already thought I might be. And then he said, let's get on a call. So we did like a 40-minute call where he did an evaluation on me. And at the end of the evaluation, he said, 5 minutes in, I knew you're ADHD. I said, you could have fucking saved me 35 minutes. But I think just because you appear to be doesn't necessarily mean you are. Yeah. And I can't remember what he asked me, Dodge. If I'm honest with you, I genuinely cannot remember what he asked me. But I've done tests online. The best place, if you think you are, even if you don't want to be diagnosed or you don't care whether you are. I know a lot of business owners don't care. I don't care, but it'd be nice to know. It would be nice to know someone go, yeah, you are, or no, you're not.
And I think there's plenty of tests online where you can just do a test and it will put you in a category of seeing whether you are highly likely to be ADHD, whether you have traits of, and they sort of put you in that category, and that can make you feel good. That can always make for some people feel shit about themselves. But now I understand the difficulty. I understand the fact that it can make you feel so shit about yourself that when you're on your own and you're trying to do something on your own and you don't have people around you, and you lose all faith in yourself and you have no trust in yourself anymore, and all you think about is all the bad shit. And that's what engulfs your mind when you go to sleep. It's like there's a loop of all the shit things people have said, the shit things you've done, just goes round and round and round. And when you can't get out of that, that's like a, is that depression? I don't know that I've been depressive, if that's the right terminology. I don't know that I've had depression.
There's levels, isn't there? Scale of 1 to 10 depression. Yeah.
And I think the ADHD, because we have rejection sensitive dysphoria, RSD, which you'll see a lot on social media now, it is when you've been rejected by things. Terry's, obviously, there's been rejection there in a lot of ways. I will have been rejected in relationships when people don't answer a phone, for example, or somebody doesn't respond to an email that you've sent out when you've done something for, or you've done some free coaching for them and they don't buy into what you're doing. All those things there, and you think, yeah, well, that's okay to feel a bit shit about it. Or some people go, oh, you just fucking move into the next one. It doesn't affect you like that. You feel shit about it. Yeah. Like it impacts you for days.
Do you magnify it?
100%.
Okay.
And it makes, and as I'm saying it now, I'm recalling things now. And it's making me feel inside, in about here, is that where it's sort of anxiety starts about here, doesn't it? And then sort of when it gets to your stomach, it's really fucking bad. But it creates anxiety, so it sort of goes hand in hand. And then when you're feeling low, your dopamine levels drop. And then you don't want to go outside. You don't want to go and do something. You don't want to just go for a drink with somebody, or maybe you haven't got the money to go for a drink with people and enjoy yourself and raise that dopamine. And I did partying for years. No wonder the fucking the pills worked, right? Because they were like raising my dopamine levels.
Yeah.
And so it suited me. So going out on weekends and doing that probably carried me through the week. Then I'm working really busy during the week. I'm keeping myself going. You like to be busy, right? Because the busier you are, the better you operate, because you're keeping your dopamine levels high. Go on holiday and chill, that's okay, because you're giving yourself the reason to do that. But if you didn't do something and you were stuck in a house on your own and trying to figure out what you're trying to do, and those dopamine levels drop, it becomes cloudier.
You could do your own editing, couldn't you?
It does. Yeah. And that's so you get that downward spiral. It's really difficult. The best thing to do when you get like that, which people don't always do, is get out, go for a fucking walk.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't just mean go for a fucking stroll. I mean, go out and go for a fast walk, like as fast as you can. I walk fast anyway, but a fast walk, you raise that dopamine. You'll start thinking of things clearer. You're like, you do get like a filter. It's like all that fucking mush where it's like all this chatter going on. The interesting stuff, the important stuff comes to the surface. And you go, fuck yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Oh, in the shower. People say it comes into the shower, right? The reason is you stood up, you're showering. It's.
I get my best ideas in the shower.
Yeah, probably because you are. It's the water and everything is going to spark something. It's going to make you feel slightly different. It does raise the endorphins and the dopamine, and so that's where those ideas become clearer, don't they? So, but ADHD isn't on its own, right? In most cases. They call it comorbidities, which is, something like that, which is a horrible word. It co-occurs with dyslexia, with dyscalculia, which is dyslexia for numbers, which I spoke about quite early on, right? Dysgraphia. What's
dysgraphia?
So there's different. So you've got dysgraphia. I've just been doing some neurodiversity training, right? So excuse me if I get these a little wrong, but there's 7 of the main traits: dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyslexia. Autism comes into that, Tourette syndrome, and dyspraxia as well. Dysgraphia is a little bit like dyslexia, and you'll probably notice, or you'll think, oh, I've seen people do that. Writing isn't necessarily about bad writing, which sort of tends to be linked with dyslexia, or those other things with that as well, like your hand aches. Some people write weird, like
left-handers normally, that is
left hand, but that's because probably the way the ink is in the paper. But even right-handers, but they just look awkward when they write, like probably look like that. But also, and it may cramp up, but also spacing of lettering. So, really difficult to keep on lines, keep within margins, but not just that, but they'll be a little bit all over the place. And some people write like that. I write in capital letters, have done for as long as I can remember.
Capital letters as well. Does that mean anything?
Well, it probably means because our handwriting's dog shit, basically, which mine is. Yeah, and the more I try and write joined up, the worse it fucking gets.
That's why I do capitals.
Yeah,
then.
Me too.
Oh, wow, because I think if I do capitals, you can't go wrong.
My capitals are like joined up capitals are yours. Yeah. They're like capitals, but we've learned a way of doing it. So it almost semi-joins up in a way. So because it's quite natural for us to write in capitals. So that dysgraphia is when their sort of words are a bit sort of spaced out. And don't really follow some sort of uniformity. And I think we can all think about kids at school that we probably now, or probably then, probably considered they were. I'm not going to say the word that we would say because I think we shouldn't really say that anymore. But you can all imagine what that word would be, and we're wrong in thinking that because they're probably different.
What does that letter begin? Well,
R.
Oh, okay.
What were you thinking?
I don't know. I was waiting to see you. Yeah.
Well, no, because we would rudely think of people like as being a bit of a div or whatever at school, weren't we? And they were backwards or whatever. But actually, now we're looking at and understanding these things more. They will have had abilities that we wouldn't have. Absolutely. They could have worked things out quicker than we could.
They're the proper entrepreneurs of
today. They really are. They really are. Dyslexia, you know what that is. Although, do you? Because we tend to think about that we can't spell. But actually, it's not always about spelling. I'm a really good speller. Like, I can see words. Yeah. Unlike numbers, I'm number blind. I can see words. However, my hand aches. I don't like reading stuff. I hate filling fucking forms out. I hate emails. Oh my God. Make me feel fucking...
Mate, I don't...
Emails make me feel... They make me... Ugh.
I don't do emails.
I hate emails.
I've WhatsApp for me. All our businesses, all for me, WhatsApp. No one email
all day. And I prefer to speak to people, to be honest with you.
And I don't read forms. I don't fill out forms. My missus does...
Forms freak me out, mate.
I haven't opened a letter in 20 years. My missus did all that to me is my worst nightmare. And someone says you've got to fill out a form, and I'm like, oh my God! Like
it was. How would you? Is this part? How do you feel when you have to fill out a code? So you asking about this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how I feel, but if you had to fill a form out, I know you don't do it, but if you had to, and nobody was around you, and you were stuck in a room, you had to fill a fucking form out. In that case, you could probably do it because you had to do it, but. What would you feel like? How would you feel if you had to fill a form?
I'd think, what a ball ache. What?
And would you do everything you possibly could not to do it?
Yeah.
You put it off forever?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Have you ever got into problems?
I would miss out bits, and then they would come back to me and say, that hasn't been filled out. What have I got to...
Would you have ever got into a problem because of not filling a form out for a parking fine or something like that? Whatever, something that would potentially escalate to being an issue. I know you've got this solved now because you've got a wife. You're lucky, right? You've got people around you.
Yeah.
But think of if you didn't, or maybe back to a time when you didn't, would that have potentially caused a problem? And then you've got to fucking pay something which you don't pay, and then the fine comes through. Things like that. Maybe you've never done that. Maybe
I've been all right on that.
Okay, but lots of people do. So and that becomes a compound issue. So you get the first letter come through, and you've got to contact them.
I've never. No,
you're lucky.
No.
But not everybody has maybe been sorted quite as long as you have in your successful life. I've been through obviously a roller coaster of success, and times when I've been attached and somebody sorted those. Something that's come through to pay a parking fine, just get it straight off, fine. Left to my own devices, they mount up until it becomes £1,000 fucking pounds, right? And that is pretty standard in the ADHD community.
Yeah, okay.
So again, you linked autism. Now, there's lots of different traits with autism. There's stimming, there's sensitivity, sensory issues as well, sounds, smells, noises, all of these things. Now, a lot of these things are linked with ADHD. And so when they are, and doing this training recently, so I can go into corporates and create awareness so that you can accommodate, understand people. Mental health. Right? There's mental health first aiders in businesses these days. It's becoming fairly standard. Yeah. This is the next step. Yeah. Because it's not being linked with mental health, but it is mental health. It's our health of our brains. Neurodiversity isn't all of those things I've just mentioned, those names. It's neurodifference, it's brain differences. Yeah. We've all got the same brain, but they're all wired differently. You will have people in your businesses that will be more creative, probably could even potentially be on an autism spectrum, maybe could have ADHD, could be dyslexic or the other ones that more.
I love those ones.
Of course you do, because we appreciate.
Like, mate, you're really creative, and I bring out the best of them.
Of course you will, because you're a similar thinker.
Yeah.
And we tend to attract those people.
Elliot.
Yes.
I've really, really enjoyed this episode, and we could go on for hours.
We really could.
We're kicking into nearly 2 hours.
Are we? Shit.
It's gone quickly.
I did think that, which is why I asked you a while ago.
Yeah, it's gone really quickly. Do you know what? You have lived a really eventful life.
I think so.
In a very packed time. When I said you were like up to 25, it was all packed into that. I know you've done lots going on and after that, but there's a big impact in your life around there, wasn't there?
Huge impact. Huge impact.
You know, I really appreciate you making the effort coming down. We've been talking about this for the last couple of years. And I did say to you last time I saw you up in London, uptown, I was like, have you ever really told her? And you were like, no. And then we've stayed in touch, and I know you've built up the confidence to go, do you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you saying it on this platform.
It's been my pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on. I feel honoured to be on here, mate. Amongst your other, the guests you've had, I genuinely appreciate and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, mate, it's been a pleasure. Where can people find you before we leave?
ElliotCBrowne.com, ELLIOTCBROWNE.com, and the same Elliot C. Browne on socials. I mean, Instagram has grown over the last month massively. So yeah, any of the socials really.
Elliot, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you.
Good man.
Thank you very much.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Can you do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? It's totally free and it massively helps our show. Cheers guys.